Welcome to Innovation Alley. In this episode, Tim O'Rourke is joined by a panel of experts for a discussion on the evolution and benefits of collaborative delivery in public utility projects.
Welcome to Innovation Alley. I'm Tim O'Rourke, the Chief Technical Officer. Today we are in lovely Manatee County, Florida, to talk about collaborative delivery. You might ask, why are we in Florida talking about collaborative delivery? Design, build, and other forms of delivery have been around for, millennia, going back to the Roman Empire or even earlier. But recently in America, it's taken on new legs as we move past the design, build, bid, build model into collaborative delivery models. And Florida is at the forefront of this in the nation, right, guys? Mm-hmm. So today, we're trying to get everyone's perspective here. So if you're going to talk about collaborative delivery, if you have an owner's representative, a contractor's representative, and an engineer's representative, you're getting the full spectrum. And we've got great guests today to cover this topic. So let's start with the client. Chris Collins is the Deputy Director of Utilities here in Manatee County. We've got Bob Bruner, who's the Regional Manager, Florida Lead for Archer Western. And then this guy to my right, I've known for like 30 years from Wade Trim, Dennis Prevo, who's our Collaborative Delivery Practice Lead. So we've got a really esteemed panel here to talk about this topic. Before we start jumping into it, why don't each of you kind of just say a little bit about your background and how you kind of evolved into this collaborative delivery mindset, starting with you, Chris.
Sure, I can go. Chris Collins, I'm Deputy Director over Utilities for Manatee County. All those 29 years I've been with the Manatee County Utilities Department, all with the Water Wastewater Division, overseeing projects here. Prior to my stint with Manatee County, I was in the private industry, kind of a grunt worker, so that's how I got my feet wet building package plants across the southeastern U.S. Went to college and figured I don't want to do this waste stuff. I want to get out of this and do something fun, and ended up I'm right back on the waste stuff. So that's where I was meant to be.
Perfect. Bob, you're on the contractor side. Last time we did do a podcast, talked a little bit of collaborative delivery. We didn't have the contractor's viewpoint, so it's good to hear from you today. Why don't you tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Bob Bruner with Archer Western. I run our water business in the state of Florida, here in Tampa. I've been in the industry, the construction industry, 35 years. Last 25 focused on water. And we were talking about your first design build job, and my first design build project was back in the early 2000s and back in Indiana. And I just found it was a very satisfying way to build a project, and fell in love with it ever since. And here in Florida, collaborative delivery is almost the dominant delivery,
kind of the dominant
delivery method, and you need to embrace it and try to perfect it, because it is satisfying for all parties. You can stand back and be proud of what you've done as a team. That cohesiveness is just something special on projects, and we do a lot of it in our industry. But we still participate in all delivery models, but the collaborative focus is where the industry's headed.
Paying dividends on all sides. So Dennis, when I first met you, you were like right out of college crawling in sewers, and here we are. He's our collaborative delivery practice lead. So why don't you kind of just quickly, from an engineer's perspective, talk about yourself and how you got it.
Yeah, so I go back with collaborative delivery with Wade Trim to like early 2000s. I guess back then it was called alternative delivery because really it was alternative, and now it's definitely the mainstream. So I'm the practice lead responsible for the collaborative.
He doesn't let anyone say anything other than collaborative delivery.
I take that personal.
If you say design build, it's like it's a cardinal sin. So
alternate, it's not alternate anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm responsible for our collaborative delivery services across our footprint, our operational footprint. Moved down here to Florida about 4 years ago for a lot of reasons. One of them was because collaborative delivery was becoming very popular down here with our clients. So moved down here, met some really nice contracting partners that we've worked really well with, had a lot of success. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So just excited to be here with two esteemed colleagues today.
So while you got the floor, Dennis, for the audience that might not know as obviously as much as you guys know about this delivery model, why don't you go a little background on the different models and kind of the background of collaborative delivery.
So we've all hit on it, but collaborative delivery is on the rise in the water industry. There's no question. And what's obvious is there's a reason it's on the rise. because we're having a lot of success with it. The owners are, the contractors are, the engineers are. So we're seeing it growing pretty rapidly, almost in every area we operate. Some places like Florida, it's much more common. But what I want to start with is a basic introduction of what is different between collaborative and then the traditional way. So what
Traditional being design bid
design bid build being the traditional old school delivery method? What is the difference? And it comes down to two things. Number one is who holds the contract or contracts with the owner. And then number two is when the contractor actually gets engaged in the project. Okay. That's really the sole difference. And I could cover the difference there. Progressive design build would be where the owner hires one team, the contractor and the engineer, to work together. So obviously on day one, the engineer and the contractor are working together, like hand in hand. With CMAR, it's very similar, but the owner typically hires the engineer first, and then if they're doing it right behind the engineer comes the CMAR. And again, they get at the table and they start working together. The difference with the collaborative delivery methods that I just explained, in design bid build, if you think about this, so with traditional design bid build, the owner hires the engineer to study and design the project. We design that project 100%, we sign, seal, we send it for permits, and then we put out to bid. And guess who looks at it for the very first time? The guys that are actually going to build it. And if you think about that lost opportunity during the design phase to get the input from
the contractor
that's going to build it, I mean, think about that, especially with today, the way we can collaborate together. So that's really the primary difference. I don't want to get into the contract mechanisms, but that essentially...
We don't need to, but you kind of described progressive design build, and there's also fixed price design build that's been out there for a while. What are the differences in your mind between those two?
Fixed prices, it requires a lot more work from the owner up front, because once they put that RFP on the street, the scope of the work is pretty refined. So if the designer and the contractor come up with a really good idea, it's a change to the scope, and then you got to go through a change order process. So with that fixed price, the owner better be really clear about his scope of work before it gets on the street, because you lose the opportunity for, efficiencies, finding ways to make the job faster, cheaper, better, more efficient, because the owner has, kind of put the framework, or here's what we want.
All right. So building on that, Dennis, and I know when we had talked and prepped for this podcast, I had asked you guys, if you're going to look at 4 delivery models like that was just described by Dennis here, your traditional design bid build, which we've been all doing for decades, right? Progressive design build, CMAR, or fixed price design build, and I asked you kind of to rank those, and you had very similar reactions, but from different viewpoints, right? So, Chris, from your perspective as an owner, how do you view those 4 ranking against each other? And I think your answer was it depends what the project is, right?
It's hard to just, on their own merit, just rank them.
So from an owner's perspective, why don't you kind of look at how you select which one you want to use?
And kind of, as Dennis was talking and explaining different methods, there's more than just those 3 methods out there. Those are the primary 3 we use. And from an owner standpoint, what we love about the opportunity to go collaborative delivery is we eliminate a lot of risk on our part. When we put a project out, design, bid, build, we're carrying most of the risk.
Most of the risk is on you.
As Dennis was alluding to, if we run into snags, and it's change orders, and that tends to always happen. So we'll still use that delivery method on certain projects, but that's when we really know we have a defined scope, we know what's out there in the field, and we're comfortable in how the process is going to go.
Right.
We choose the CMAR progressive design route when we'd like some innovation, or our project scheduling is of a concern, so we can get things started early. So yeah, it's really project dependent on which way we go.
And you're actually collaborating with that team, right, as the decisions are being made and getting to that guaranteed maximum price at some point in time that makes sense to all of you, right?
Yeah, as Dennis was saying, the design bid build, and nobody sees it until it actually hits the street, and it's a surprise.
Sometimes it's too late too, right? So that's interesting. Bob, from the contractor's perspective, similar, but maybe a little different viewpoint.
Yeah, I've done a lot of CMAR and progressive design build, and I treat them both almost the same if we have the right mentality with our partners. But to rank them, I would say progressive design build 1, CMAR 2.
So the marriage versus fixed, right? Where you're assigned an engineer versus
progressive. We get to choose who we want to be our design partner. The CMAR, the owner really chooses who the design partner is. But if everyone takes their hat off and comes to the table, focus on the goals at hand, it should feel very, very similar to progressive design build. So progressive design build, CMAR, and I'm going to say traditional delivery third and fixed price fourth. I think the fixed price design build leads to so many challenges along the way, put on the owner from the start. We bring some innovation.
It limits innovation, doesn't it?
Well, it limits some innovation, and then it always tends to, you try to make changes along the way to improve the project, and then the finger pointing begins. Well, that's a change, and
the owner
just
has
puts,
less of an opportunity
there's so much risk.
to push ideas into that fixed price, right?
There's just so much risk to manage on all parties on a fixed price in the water space. It's just, there's so many variables, it seems like.
Dennis, I think you have the same rankings as Bob.
Yeah, we prefer progressive. We get to pick our partner versus an arranged marriage. But I do want to say that the big difference for the owner is with design build, rather progressive fixed price, the owner's got one contract to manage. With the CMAR, they have two. You have the engineer and the CMAR contract. Now, if they get along, everything's fine. But if there's some friction and some, some conflict, then you have to be more involved.
And we've run into that on our side. From the owner standpoint, we've got to have somebody strong managing those two contracts.
Someone in between the two that are driving the
So if the design team and the contracting team, struggle to more or less get along with the project, we've got somebody strong that can kind of forced marriage, as we call it. So.
Right, a forced marriage. Yeah. Okay, well, you started to kind of hit on it about what's the secret sauce of a successful team, whether it's CMAR or progressive design built from a contractor's perspective and working with either an arranged marriage or a forced marriage. But what are some of the attributes of a team that performs highly effectively in this model?
I've done many design builds and CMARs.
So what were your lessons learned?
And the lessons, there's three things that come to my mind. One is leadership from each stakeholder. It's everyone's first at some point, right? But it requires a leader that keeps everyone on task and focused on true collaboration, listening to ideas, building that environment of trust with all parties. And it's really important to have that leader or that champion of each group that challenges their own team, challenges the other team to focus on the solutions, focus on innovation, focus on getting the best out of everyone.
I think you used the term a culture of collaboration with the parties.
And that leads to, those leaders need to continue to build that culture of trust, of collaboration, and have a safe environment where people feel comfortable that they can speak their mind or have an idea, even though it may get shut down, but usually those ideas lead to the ultimate solution. And we want to
and imagine when you're building a progressive team, you're looking for a partner who's got that culture understanding with you, right? That's
and when you bring the old school mentalities that, the contractor's out to screw you, or whatever that might be. Designers aren't builders.
Those are old tapes from the early days.
Design sucks.
Yeah,
we heard it.
We're all people in this industry, and we want the best out of people. So it takes that leadership to drive the culture of collaboration, that environment of trust.
And I assume, Chris, you encourage your staff involved in it too to be part of that and culture.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's one reason we love the collaborative method so much, as opposed to just a design bid build and putting it out.
You get what you
got
get.
the opportunity to get together. And one of my favorite things about both methods is, once we decide on a team or to go, we can collaborate and actually collaborate on what workshops we want to have. So we'll have a workshop just on the MOPO of the project and really iron that out, or have a workshop on the risk. Got an opportunity to kind of do those workshops before we even get to a GMP.
What's great about that, you got all the decision makers and stakeholders from the inside anyway, sitting in that collaboration, right? It's not reacting to, it's developing the solution.
There's one of the key to the successful project from a collaborative project delivery is really identifying what the true goals are from the client. We sometimes go down the path where we got to add XMGD or do this, do that, and we forget to think about what are the true goals from operations, from a
How do
schedule.
you do
from
that?
a-
How do you pull the goals out of?
You've got to have an open dialogue
Okay.
about it, and sometimes Chris may not even understand what the true goals are.
Maybe
His-
sometimes you don't
his
even know
team-
what your goals
yeah,
really
his-
are
his team
until you
needs
get more
to-
information.
His
right?
team needs to
Right.
think about what that is, so we all can focus on delivering to those goals. And when we focus on delivering to those goals, the job
Takes care of itself.
it's an entity of its own. It starts focusing on how are we going to deliver those goals, and every decision, does that solve the problem, right?
Right.
And it's amazing how that really aligns everyone on the team to focus. Yeah.
And
Now,
it
and
is.
I can tell you, not to speak for Dennis, but as the collaborative practice lead, we don't just align with any contractor. There has to be, a history or culture. Ultimately, if we get in the perfect partner, but to create a new partner, we go through all those kind of checks and balances, right, Dennis? So why don't you, from your perspective, from an engineer,
and
what are you looking for in a contractor?
So the data will tell you the longer two-term firms work together, the better they get at it. And I think the owners don't always appreciate what goes into that partnership up front as far as the contract, the terms, coming to terms with the partner. But put all that aside. Let's say, okay, we get a contract in place. It's the culture of the two firms, and like Bob said, checking your company badge or your title in at the door when you go into these meetings, and go in for the benefit of the project, benefit of the owner, to end up with the best project. Start with the end in mind. When you say that, you're talking about his operators. The guys, when we're done with this project and we leave, Chris's operators got to run these facilities. So those are the end users, and to keep the end user in mind from the very beginning, bring them to the table is just.
I like that idea.
It's really.
Chris, I got to imagine your operators kind of enjoy that
Yeah.
process, right?
Yeah,
They're
I
getting
can't-
involved in the decision.
Correct.
With not just an engineer who says, yeah, they can do that, with the contractor who says, yeah, we will do that.
Yeah, I cannot begin to tell you the amount of times we've done projects where the project's finally wrapped up and the operators have to live with it, or the maintenance team has to live with it, and I just get beat up. Why did we do this? Why did we do that? So that's the great thing about the collaborative delivery. We can get them all in the room. And what I always tell my team now is, once we get through this, don't complain after the project's done. This is your opportunity. We're collaborating. We want to make this project right.
So Chris, as the owner, I mean, you guys have been tackling this for a while now, right? And you're getting really good at it. If you're a utility out there in a state that may be just getting authorized into this delivery model, what kind of advice would you give utility owners to lessons you might have learned from the beginning till now that you might want to be thinking about when you? I mean, one thing we're trying to give advice to is you don't want to be doing this fixed price design build. Contractors don't like it, engineers are at risk, and the owner really doesn't get what they want.
Unless the owner really understands the work it takes up front to really dial things in before you go out and hire a design build.
And a lot of time is a driver in those circumstances up in areas that haven't, more so than collaboration. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, if you had to give a few.
And
anecdotal-
there's not an owner out there that loves change orders. So it's almost a bad word in our industry.
I don't know anyone that likes change orders. Even Bob doesn't like change orders. Right? I mean,
So yeah, I mean that's number one. That's an easy avoidance with the collaborative delivery. So you can get together with the teams. Like I said, you can pull the operators and maintenance staff in the room, and you can collaborate on this stuff and iron out a lot of this.
Yep.
These things that are going to happen on the project before we run into them, and in the fixed price method have to go and do a change order.
And there's less surprises, right? You're not getting hit with something that you can't really do anything about at the time you get
Can I
hit with.
just add to that?
Sure.
Because I talked about how collaborative delivery is on the rise in the water market. And despite that, the success that's being had, despite the references, resources we have in the business, the Water Collaborative Delivery Association, the Design Build Institute of America, there's still owners that haven't done this yet, and they're very reluctant to it. So I feel, as professionals here, we're trying to do some outreach to these owners and sit down with them and explain that if you had a bad design build way back, it was never the delivery method, it was the people and the way the project was managed.
Right.
So we're trying to educate our owners, especially the ones that aren't doing it yet, because we think there's a lot of success to be had when you do it right.
Right, and I've been in forums, and I don't want to get into who the entities are or the conferences, but where you hear a lot of negativity about it. Contractors are pushing back against it, don't want to do it because it's new and they don't know what to expect. It increases their risk in their first thoughts, right?
We have
You
to
got
be
engineers
sensitive to that, right?
are nervous about it because they lose direct contact with the client if it's a fixed price design build, right? And there's no collaboration going on. So
So
It's kind of a learned experience, though, right?
Yeah,
And
so
as you
not-
get better
yeah.
as you go.
Yeah, so not just the change order avoidance. We love it because we can start projects and schedule is of utmost importance to us as we grow. We can put early work packages into the proposal and get bite pieces off of the project early in the project as opposed to wait until it's all out there on the street and bid and then have to go all
I
at
can
once.
imagine Florida is such a growing market overall, right? So you've got capital plans that are expanding and more pressures on, and then having this kind of option to be able to address it's got to be a good feeling, right?
Absolutely.
So,
And by the way, we had 3 major hurricanes that blew through this area last year. So
he grew up in Michigan. He didn't know what a hurricane was until it came
know
down
what
here.
one is now.
Figured, I'm sure they had storms in Indiana too, but nothing like this, right? So Dennis, this is an innovation podcast. We're talking about a delivery model as being innovative, and for most of the country, it still is, right? But when you're building something or instituting a new technology within a facility, is there benefit in using this delivery model?
And there's really 2 things that come to mind, and I'm sure I want to hear from Bob. But the first is the way we're designing things now. Everything's in 3D, rather it's
Like model-based design?
It's a
yeah.
Revit or if it's a civil 3D model. And what's fantastic about that is we can upload these files to these cloud sharing platforms, ACC for instance. And Bob's team, his estimators, could get in there and really start looking at this in real time as we're developing them. And then the second one I just alluded to was these cloud systems out there that allow us to collaborate, share large files is just fabulous. ACC's
Real time, yeah.
Auto Cloud, AutoCAD, whatever it is, ACC is really where things are going, and it's a great platform for us to share these large files, not only between us, but with the owner too, real time. Like, here's the model, go take a look at it. So
You agree with
those are
that, I
the 2
assume, right?
things.
Because
Yeah.
being able to see what the impact of the decision is, the faster you can, the quicker you can make the decision. And the energy's still there when the idea is hot, right? In the old days, we'd say, hey, why don't we try this? And say, okay, why don't you look into that? Okay, in 2 weeks, we'll come back and show you some figures. Now it could be closer to real time.
Yeah.
The
So innovation feeds that collaboration if you do it right,
the efficiency gained with the modeling and the ability to share those models is amazing.
And the
I mean,
operators
I'm
can
an
look
old
at
school-
that and go, how am I supposed to get into that space,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Who
I'm an
came
old
up
school
with this,
guy.
right?
I don't understand how to use it, but we have smart people that use it, and the decisions that you can make by being able to share that, see it, feel it, walk through it sometimes virtually is pretty amazing. And that just it joins us all together. And
Yeah,
I
throwing
tell
a
you,
set of plans or blueprints to operators or maintenance in 2D is just,
Yeah, I mean,
time is
it's-
always of the essence in these projects. I mean, that's anymore. Every client schedule is probably 1 or 2. That's their goals, right? And
Bob's a little younger than me, but I mean, I remember when there wasn't even CAD. I mean, you're literally making sketches on a whiteboard, right?
I still do hand CAD all the time and share it with my guys, and they draw it up for me. But
And this, I mean, this, and listening to all this, I mean, it is kind of a collaborative delivery love fest, right? I mean, but are there challenges? Are there things that lessons learned, or what within this delivery model have you found challenging, Chris, from an owner's perspective? And I'll ask you that same question, and then you too.
From an owner's perspective, as Bob mentioned earlier, I mean, if the projects are going well, the CMAR and progressive design build should flow the same. We should really notice no difference from our side.
Unless there's a friction between the 2 parties.
Correct, and we've had projects where the team may not be, may not get along well.
So that's interesting for me to ask you this, Chris. So you have an engineer you prefer in this type of project that you want to kind of utilize, and you've got a contractor that you would want to utilize, and they're not necessarily going to link as progressive design build partners, right? That gives you the option to get the best of both worlds. What goes into your decision on that, if you know the history of the 2 working together or not, or is that something you think strongly of when you make
No, we definitely think strongly of
Yeah.
that. So past experience, past work they've done together.
You don't want to get 2
and
partners
so,
that don't like each other and say,
yeah,
hey,
we don't
work it out.
purposely create a fight. So
Just because it's fun to watch them go at it.
Yeah. And a lot of when we do these proposals and we go through the interview process, picking teams. I mean, that's one thing we're looking at from the other side of the table is how these 2 different
And for those that don't know,
groups interact
so
with each
how
other.
do you do that selection? You've got a separate interview for the engineer, you got a separate interview for the contractor. Do the contractor and engineers know who the pool is that's competing for the 2? Yeah.
They typically do.
Well,
yeah.
they generally select the
And do they
designer
try, like,
before
right.
the CMAR.
So
is
does the
solicitation.
contractor say, of the people you're interviewing for the engineering assignment, I get along with all of them, blah, you know, that kind of stuff going on in the
We have that
proposal?
interaction with them.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think that's probably critical to your decision then, right?
Absolutely.
Well, we as the contractor, you know,
You get along with everybody.
we try, but there's firms you don't have a relationship with. You've never
Can you
done
write them down
projects,
and we can put them on the screen, or is it?
But the ones we do have a relationship with, we feel like we have a better chance of winning because
right.
we've done work together, and you can show a resume and some connectivity. But
And another one of the great things about the collaborative delivery method, whether we go CMAR or progressive design build, whichever way we go, we can get the word on the street well ahead of the project even going out.
Right.
So teams can start forming and building that bond and with
Strategizing.
each other, building that bond with us, as opposed to just throwing a proposal out and try to catch what we can catch and we just get lucky. But
That seems to have worked for you though, right? I mean,
that's what needs to happen. I mean, for owners that haven't gone this route and are thinking of going this route, I mean, that's some of the benefits. As I mentioned, you get a lot of work done prior to projects even hitting the street, as teams form and
Right.
bonds are made, and
and you're getting a lot of ideas kicked around.
where ideas are kicked around. We're not in the cone of silence from the government standpoint with the proposals goes. So we share information. We do tours of our facilities, for teams to come and look and decide whether they're going to go after a project, not go after the project, and a lot of that legwork happens before the project hits the street.
So as a vendor, I'm on the engineering side, we really appreciate that because there's some owners that don't allow that. They feel like, it's gonna
Cone of silence.
Yeah, even before that, that's what he's talking about. The time before that to allow us to come in, meet with his people, understand the project. It's really beneficial. We have some owners, not necessarily down in Florida, that don't like that. They feel like there's a misperception, but.
Or favoritism if I gave too much to this party.
But for us to get in and really understand, the key hot buttons for the project for the owner is critical, especially early on as we're forming the team. So we appreciate that, Chris. We do.
Yeah.
You guys are really good at that, and we appreciate
The
that.
ultimate goal is we want a good project.
That's right.
Yeah.
you want the
part of
best
it,
team
right.
to deliver the best project.
Bob, you got any horror stories about? Maybe not that serious, but
Usually, generally, from my experience, it's there's a lot of tension around cost.
yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, this construction work costs money. It costs a lot of money. The last 5-7 years, the cost of this work has gone through the roof, and it's
And volatile in the pricing too, right?
it's volatile. The schedules were volatile, but again, it's why it's critical to establish that environment of trust where we can actually lay down, here's what we think the cost of the work is, and talk it through, and the owner understands it, and can even challenge the contractor a little bit, and you can have some good open dialogue around it. And there's areas that we put more risk in there, and we can talk about those risks that cost money. It really starts with just that environment you establish. Do we feel comfortable talking about those things?
I could say as an engineer, I mean, some of the most stressful days or nights of my career were, is that estimate we put together the right number or not? If you're the low bidder by about 40%, you could get fired by the client, right? When you're in an environment like this, where you're actually getting validation of what the real impact costs are, decisions being made, not that engineers can't estimate. Some say they can't, but obviously having the source of who actually building and putting numbers together gives you a lot more confidence that this is what the real budget of this job is.
Well, that's one of the main values of this collaborative delivery is understanding that
And you can make
early,
decisions if it starts to get up higher that, hey, we need to
allow
make
those
adjustments.
changes to be made.
And there's no uncertainty because if it's done right, it's an open book, transparent process. Bob's showing you what's in the market. Here's what the market bears. Like, I'm sorry, that's what it's going to cost. So,
It's not me trying to swindle you. Here are the numbers, right?
here's what the market bears, and to get us out of that, Tim, because we're not good at it anymore, and have these guys do it. I think it's better for the owner.
He doesn't represent the official position of Wade Trim. But the fact is, though, we're basically trying to give a guess to what we think it is based on information we have. Contractors have the actual data sources on what it's going to cost for their company to build it.
Well, it's painful for the owner when the engineer is the low bidder.
I've
by a
been
lot
in
on bid day, right?
I've
It
been
is-
in that
It is
room.
painful.
Yeah. It's like I say, sometimes that could be worse than making a mistake in the design. If you truly do blow the budget and they can't.
Well, there's
award
been many
projects.
jobs that have had to stop on bid day. Right?
Go forward.
And there's an old term that we used, back in the design bid build environment, design to budget, right? So now you know what the cap number is. You got to make your design decisions
How do we
based
meet
on
the goal based off of the?
And if you don't have good real data on what it's actually going to cost, sometimes you can't do it, or you just didn't do it right.
You shortchange, and then the operators and the maintenance people are.
And as an owner's rep, and I was a program manager for a while too, Chris, there's not a whole lot you can do about it once the bids are in.
Right.
Now it's, what, are we going to rebid this? Are we going to redesign it? What are we going to do, right? Because we can't award it at this number. That's something I imagine this delivery model manages 10 times better than the old format. So Chris, is it a fair question, Chris? What % of the capital plan delivery do you kind of do collaborative delivery with versus the traditional? Or if you don't know the number, that's fine.
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but knowing that we've got 4 large treatment plants either in design or going out, they're eating up most of the capital. So I would say the majority of our capital budget is collaborative delivery.
And you're obviously a believer, listening to
Absolutely.
experiences here. So Bob, from a contractor's perspective, you're a large contractor. I mean, I don't know what you guys do a year from
We do a lot.
construction.
We do a lot.
They're in the B's, right?
Yeah, yes.
What % of collaborative delivery does Archer Western do now? Or you personally? Let's start with you.
Let's start with my Florida group.
Right.
We try to be at a 50-50 balance. We built some nice craft crews and project teams, and this collaborative stuff, even though it's really great, successful, it is hard to schedule our resources to know when the work's going to start.
Okay.
So we have to stay in that hard bid world, the traditional delivery, so we can better understand our resource demands and help the client when the projects need. We understand our schedules, and we can shift our resources as needed. So I'm a firm believer in having a nice balance of collaborative versus the traditional delivery, because I'm confident when I can go to work.
Right.
Keeps our pencil sharp as contractors, keeps us competitive to the marketplace. There's a lot of benefits.
Keep everyone
As a
fed.
water business for Archer Western overall, I'm guessing we're in the 50 to 60% range of collaborative.
And not knowing your competition, is that common, or are you guys doing more than you think that?
We have competitors that have solely moved to the collaborative
Completely
world.
that world.
Completely the way the market is.
Wow.
That's their bread and butter, and that's their business. But we feel like we need to stay in the both sides of the
Both
business.
sides of that, as we are.
It just
too.
pays benefits for us.
Yeah. Dennis Boyd Trim, it's been growing and growing and growing. And
So
we're in
I'll speak to Florida first. I would say for our capital projects down in this state on the water side, I would say it's 75 to 85%.
So that's the
collaborative
lion's
delivery.
share of it.
Yeah. We're hardly doing any hard bid work. There's a couple of our clients down here that still prefer it, so if they want it, that's what we do. But it's dominant down here. in
Down here
Florida
it's
for weight
dominant.
On the water side, absolutely it's
We're
dominant.
starting to see it more in the Midwest and the Northeast now.
Even places like Texas, where
Texas,
the
yeah.
laws are coming around. New York City, obviously, we talked about that. So, but here in Florida, it's vastly dominant on our water projects.
This was a great conversation, guys. I think we had very esteemed guests that knew a lot more about this than probably the general listener out there. So if you had to give some final thoughts, why don't we end with the client's perspective? Start with you, Dennis, and we'll go around the table this way.
Yeah, so my big thing is to continue to try to reach out to our owners that aren't doing this and try to educate them, because I think there's some benefits. There's lots of benefits to delivering projects this way, to allow for the collaboration, the innovation, for the owner to watch the costs from a transparent standpoint. I think there's just a lot of value in this. So for me, from my perspective, not so much down here in Florida, but other parts of the country, to get out there and try to educate our owners on the benefits of collaborative
So
delivery.
your frequent flyer miles are going
Yes,
up.
absolutely.
All right. We'll see you in New York pretty soon.
Yeah, right.
Bob, how about you?
I second your perspective. We want all clients to have the option and feel comfortable of doing a collaborative delivery, and we as leaders in the industry need to encourage that, and it's incumbent on us on teaching and coaching on how to build that trust, that collaborative environment, and be open about the challenges. dating back to 2003 when I did my first design build job, I was like, wow, this is really a fun way to do work. It's the fight was out of it, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Once you get that feeling, you get that little mojo going, you really like it, and it starts
That
becoming
confrontational engineer-contractor thing was so useless at the end of the day, right? Yeah.
Well, I like it as a positive when you're talking about the innovation.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that.
I
I,
got
don't
it.
like that. Let's have that healthy debate versus,
And that's fun
you
for the
screwed this
engineers
up,
too.
right, yeah.
I can tell you. So the reality is, Chris, he can't decide what the delivery model is, and nor can he. The owner decides.
The owner decides.
So we got a bunch of owners who may be listening to this that haven't really gone down this path in a major way. What would you say to them as far as, I understand where you were or where you are and where we were, but just some final thoughts from the owner's perspective.
Yeah, again, Manatee County loves collaborative delivery. We've been doing it, about the last 10 years, so we've got a lot of projects under our belt. And Bob mentioned earlier, any project, no matter which way you go, can go south if you've got the wrong people running it or it's managed poorly. Yeah. We've had some of those issues, and we've kind of learned how to get around those, and having the right people in place manage the projects. Again, with the CMAR, you've got 2 contracts, so having that strong person on the owner's side who's actually managing that's important. What we really love, we love collaborative delivery so much. That we've got the Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act out there, the CCNA.
Yep.
As it's known, it's $7.5 million now. We're a large enough county and have enough projects going on. That really helps us because it allows us to keep a library of CMAR contractors. So we don't have to, when we've got smaller projects, it's funny, we call 7.5 million small projects nowadays, but when we've got these smaller projects, we don't have to go through the whole process and putting proposals together and design bid packages. We've got an engineer of record for our utilities department, can kind of help us with design, and we can, pull one of our CMAR contractors in and do the project.
A win-win.
Win-win.
So I imagine you'd be, if somebody were interested in finding out more from your perspective, you're probably available to talk to other owners. and say,
Absolutely.
give me a shout. I can tell you what the initial fears and the good and the bad and the ugly, but overall it's been a great thing for Manatee County.
Yeah, 100%. Yep, we're full steam ahead. We're not changing our ways. We're still going to use all methods. We're still going to hard bid stuff when it calls for it. But yeah,
Use the right tool for the right problem.
right.
You guys were great guests. I want to thank you for joining Innovation Alley, and hopefully we'll have a chance to talk again, after maybe some of the projects we're working together on. But this was very informative. I want to thank you very much for joining us today. And that's it for Innovation Alley. See you next time.